I'm gonna get a cup of coffee. I'll be back in just a minute. Hello. Okay, now. Anything besides Darnhold? So I spent. Well, I went to bed yesterday sometime, and where I think I stopped at like a logical point, right? And then the thing is, yeah, that's the point. I was like, I had to fucking find a version of Python, and I installed one version earlier, and then that was still like, okay, well, that worked for some of the things, and then it required a whole other version, newer, older of Python to get all of the shit working. Oh shit, where are we headed? Let's see here. I'd rather do Shattered Hand or Halls or whatever. Cool, sure. Yeah, I'd rather do Shattered Hall, but whatever. Plenty of time. So I got it all working, man. I had it working. And the reason I decided to log on instead of doing more with it was I got the all of it up and running, and was able to talk to it and have it talk to me and all that stuff and respond. And then after like one go around, I'm like, okay, well, how do I get a push to talk so it doesn't just sit there and try to conversate with me about everything I say, right? And then when I tried to alter the script to make a push to talk command is when it all went funky, and I just took a break from it for a while. But I have it all up and running, man. Pretty cool. Now you can run all that on your laptop. That's insanity. I guess the difference between how fast and stuff it is like do it on a remote server with more resources and probably better software. You know what I mean? There's likely faster and other, like. But now I know how to do it. I've got 1,000 windows open right now, though. And it's all successfully shut down. Cool. We're doing Underbog. Repair, fly there. So, not necessarily like waiting for any breaking news to occur or anything, but shit. We will figure it out eventually, whatever, all of the entirety of it. Oh. I was really hoping to stream and have it be I can talk to it, man, but the push to talk thing fucked up. And then once I tried to get it to work regular, it crashed after um, one exchange of whatever, one processing thing. So More or less, I just needed to prove that I could do it. I don't know where to go from that point though, but it is pretty cool. It's pretty neat. This guy drowned. Oh man, I need to play on the desk, man. This shit hurts my tailbone sitting down too much. This is fucking burn my legs off. Oh my god, dude. I've kind of ran out of stuff to do, you know. Is that everyone? 3, 4, 5. Looks like it, sort of. What the fucking... I used all my arcane powders? How the fuck did that happen? Someone log on my account, delete my arcane powders. Where's the other biscuit? Son of a biscuit. Where'd it go? Is there another mage? Nope. You just need water? Okay. let me guess, right? You want me to validate your parking too? Right. Where's the other? He's a paladin and he's just water. Underbog's probably one of my least favorite instances to do. But, oh well, I can't sheep that. I can trap it. But I cannot, I can banish it. Can't sheep that. Da, 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 da. It was helpful though, man. It's great to know, like, it's not some um, impossible to figure out thing. It's like, it does give you a new appreciation for people that do know what they're doing, though. When, like, you can kind of see, how it all works and all that. Baba Booey, Baba Booey. Derp. All day was fucking rain today, dude. It's fucking miserable. I gotta get outside and drain the pool at some point in time. I don't have any of the things for it. I gotta figure out how to do it. I've done it before. I don't have to drain it all the way. I just have to drain it like if it keeps raining before it, you know what I mean, before it gets drier outside. We had that snowstorm like a month or two ago, whatever it was, and I don't want it to overflow. you guys had a fun Saturday. You need to find a movie to watch, really. Shit on TV. I found a stream that has CNN on YouTube, but it just replays the same like half an hour from earlier this week. I don't know if that's because it's a weekend or not. I think the next thing I'm gonna do is that Molt thing. Try to see if I can't find like a remote hosting service for it, so I don't have to go out and buy one of those boxes. I guess that's more of a fashion statement than anything, but wow, I thought I was healing. That's why. About trying to fire blast and stuff, but I think one thing that helps, like something that this will say, learning how to like structure as far as any of this shit's concerned, like organization. It's a helpful skill to have. I'm not the world's most organized person, you know what I mean, to begin with, much less like on a computer. So maybe knowing, like, keeping track of all this shit in my head probably good for organizational skills. Tell you what though, that fucking Chat GPT is super goddamn helpful. I understand, like, if I were a developer or a coder or whatever, and this magic box got released on the internet that suddenly knew how to do all the shit that I would, you know what I mean? I would say it's probably like, how is that not the most valuable thing ever? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have no clue. Like I said before, it's only a bubble if the pace if it over accelerates in growth, right? Whereas if it slowly grows at the rate that it should, then it's not necessarily a bubble. It's more like a balloon, right? Like the thing is designed to get to a certain size, right? At a certain speed versus a bubble, right? And so if I were, like I said the other day, like if even all of it, if all of it does is help people debug and all that stuff, and it's worth more than what it's worth now. You know what I mean? Eventually, it's just got to catch up to that point. Like if all it did was help write code, yeah, it'd be well worth whatever it's worth currently, if not more. The thing is that your average person doesn't have an appreciation, and not to say like I have more of an appreciation, and I always more reverence than appreciation. Now I have an appreciation, right? Uh, like haven't actually seen what it consists of and all that stuff versus just like appreciating what you guys can do, not necessarily having an understanding. Now I have a better idea, which means I appreciate it that much more, right? Maybe it's the other way around, but you get what I'm saying, right? But I'm trying to think of like, I mean, it ran pretty quick, but you have to think though, like it's not being plugged into more than like one or two things at a time, and for the response to be relatively quick, I mean, there's not a lot I can do, as far as the overall like what software you use and stuff. But I've launched servers locally for things when I was younger and familiar with some of that stuff, but I didn't realize how much of this consisted of um, various servers communicating with one another and APIs and everything. Like, I just wish there were more. I guess somewhere there is, I guess um, companies and stuff where they have basically just everything under one roof versus having to pick and pull from various things, which good for them, I guess, right? But I can't necessarily say from an opinion of experience whether or not like what is or isn't better. You know what I mean? As far as like what kind of shit to use or what large language model does better or faster or what, I have no fucking clue. But all stuff to I guess familiarize myself with. I mean, there's one way to learn, and that's actually to do the shit. I'm gonna take those Google courses too. I took a module the other day, the introduction module, which for the most part was basically just kind of confirming the what language to use, what things are called. Like I suspected, and I know I've looked it up before, and I've gotten the answer, but there's always that like tinge of mental doubt when you get to that point because I don't have an instructor or a teacher to tell you, that this is the way this is what these things are called. That's how it is. I'm like, I, I've I've gone through most of my life without ever getting like a hard confirmation on how to do anything. So you can imagine, I should be used to it by now. You know what I mean? I should be used to like, well, no one's ever going to tell you that you're right. You know what I mean? Well, they'd love to tell you that you're wrong. That's the way people are, though, right? But when you're kind of just going through life trying to trial and error to find the right answer, I guess sometimes it's an indicator that what you're doing is not something many people understand, or you get what I'm saying? And yeah, I know that, but then again, I don't have like the correct peer group as far as who I need to mingle with, you know. The thing that makes crypto so rough is that so many people aren't there for the right reasons, and like you can sit there and think someone has the best intentions all day, every day, and it may even seem that way, you know. And you find out that they aren't about shit basically. Even the like even people you would think, you know, like yeah, without getting into any name calling, people who I used to work with and all that stuff, and like you would just hope that a person that their primary message is about freedom and privacy and liberty and all that stuff, was to find out they didn't actually give a shit about cryptocurrency whatsoever. You know, they just seen it as a way to get paid. It does make you kind of like, well, that's kind of why I embarked on that journey to find out for myself. Because not to say I suspected that, but I wasn't surprised by it, if that makes any sense, right? I wasn't launching a crusade to debunk or whatever. I suspected that might be the case, and neither here nor there in a lot of ways, but found out that that was indeed the truth. That from the message is good. The person people looked up to had a good message, and then basically, as soon as the cameras are off, wipe their ass with the thing. You know, like can't say that about me, because I got all my fucking caring about cryptocurrency as much as I do out of the way before it was even worth anything. So no one can call me into question about my motives. But it's always convenient when like this new thing comes along and it's like you know it's a nuanced subject. And look, I'm not the type of guy that ever agreed with shit like Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin SV, and even Litecoin's kind of cheeseball, right? Although Litecoin, I would think of the three is or of the three forked Bitcoin, primary, variations or whatever. I have the most appreciation for Litecoin because you know the way that Charlie Lee handled it versus like how these other guys did. I mean, he didn't pretend it wasn't something that it wasn't. He didn't pretend it was like just a faster, what he believed to be an improvement on Bitcoin, right? And there's some arguments to be made that it does indeed operate quicker, and there's a few other pluses there, right? And he never tried to sell it as like him pretending to be Satoshi, or that the Bitcoin Cash thing was like a solution to a business problem, or Bitcoin just like, you know what I mean? So I have to say, out of all those things, I appreciate Charlie Lee's approach. Like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a no apologies fork of Bitcoin, right? Just it is what it is. Not pretending that it's something that it's not. Happily sold his fat fucking fortune of the shit to a bank when it was at its all-time high or relatively close to it, and pretty much everybody knew that's what he was going to do. And he did sort of. He was an early Coinbase employee too, wasn't he? If I remember correctly. I remember whenever Litecoin got listed on Coinbase and Ethereum. Where's that noise coming from? People from California. Spammers. But right, yeah. But the thing is that yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a clue. What I'm getting at here is though is that there's a lot of people that aren't there for the right reasons, right? With at least with AI, it seems like if I get in with the right people, there's no monetary incentive. It's not a ring of shysters like we see with cryptocurrency, or even like the vestigial figureheads. There are people that are known for like basically fucking people over for no reason, and actually like enjoying doing it, right? And like bragging about it and laughing about the shit, like fucking people over. Um, I can imagine where there's more business structure as far as like trying to, I guess, not to say, I hate to even use the word, but like to develop in the AI space versus crypto. They're like, well, there's a lot of institutional support for AI for a lot of good reasons, and that means that there's less shitheads. I like that idea, sort of. You know, I definitely like the less shitheads part. But there are a bunch of crypto purists that get left in the dust to these fucking goons because they're willing to sell their soul to the devil for a few dollars, right? And those are the guys that, and I can't like sit there and shit talk the guys. I don't know if they're good people or not, but I would think launching Bitcoin Cash is like a cheese ball thing to do. You know what I mean? It really is. And even Litecoin at some point, but it was like a faster version of Bitcoin, so I guess there's a reason for it. And just the whole fucking trying to monopolize the Bitcoin Cash mining thing and using the same cryptographic hashing algorithm as Bitcoin. You're trying to take a market share from something that everybody appreciates. You know, Bitcoin, right? That uses SHA-256, right? Doesn't Bitcoin Cash still use SHA-256? Pretty sure it does, doesn't it? No, SHA-250, 250. Yeah, but I thought so. I want to make sure if I put my foot in my mouth, but I remember all the mining battles and wars and like people trying to get the machine so they could mine the thing and all the shit with John and those people and everything else. And, like how convenient is it that a person that I'm not dogging it, it's a business, so it's not. I guess it's not against the law to do these things. It's just kind of cheeseball. But the Bitmain mining people launching their own cryptocurrency essentially while having like a monopoly on manufacturing the Bitcoin miners at the time is like it's certainly Chinese. It's certainly something Chinese people would do, right? Sounds Chinese, right? I got nothing but respect for the guy though, Jihan Wu. I've never met him, but John looked up to him like he was an old man, basically, right? I just think that it's convenient, and at that point in time, I guess those sort of things occur in the crypto space, and I say ignorance not in a mean way, but by the fact is like we just haven't had enough time to experience some more the more market um, dynamic conditions that make or break things or make things successful or why these things exist to begin with. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I think I'm coming to that realization now with some of the AI stuff is that for my own ignorance, right, just basically not having the opportunity or taking the time to put it to work myself as much as I could, right? Um, Starting to see what like how things actually work versus just taking somebody's word for it is helpful. But you can only do so much, Like there's a certain amount of having to take somebody's word for shit because you can't be an expert on everything. But I have a feeling that AI is going to be slightly different if I ever end up there because there's there's more institutional support. You know what I mean? It's not like, well, you guys mine it and the banks will buy it versus like no, like investors invest in things and make sure like the thing grows and create a new technology and so on and so forth versus like, well, you find out like, well, I mean, there's that type of thing in every every facet of business, right? There's people that do shit you wish they didn't, right? But when you find out all your heroes are more or less like goons, like you kind of, not to say lose faith, but you're like, well, maybe next year, maybe next year we'll find some more good guys that really want to do things for the right reason. But what I say is that it seems like the best people in crypto just don't get the appreciation they deserve because the the hype machine, is so effective at convincing people of anything really, that people end up worshiping these idiots that aren't good for crypto. That's why the first and foremost the thing I always say is like, well, if you're here for because an influencer said something or whatever, it's like, come on, man. You can think better than that. I hope, right? You can make your own decisions. You don't need that guy's permission or approval or his guidance or like to make the decision or and if you can't necessarily come up with that decision yourself, then maybe buckle down and research a little more and figure some shit out yourself and But I would never get to the point where, well, I would suggest never getting to the point. I would try as much as I could not to get to the point where you're dependent on anybody else's knowledge to do anything, you know what I mean, or to be successful. It is a sense of powerlessness you have whenever like you have to basically go to somebody and have them explain to you and like, well, since you don't have enough understanding to begin with, the knowledge that the information they give you doesn't stick because there's nothing for it to stick to. You know, you have no foundation level knowledge as far as how any of this shit works, and you're like, well, I'll just always have to take your word for what the fuck's going on. I get tired of that shit. You know, I should have saved that for psychic horror. I stepped away for years. You know, only whenever, not to say a last ditch effort, but I always, you know, I try and wait until it's necessary because I also don't like edging into other people's territory. But whenever I seen that there wasn't going to be anybody to step up or step forward with things like Leah to try and help, you know, just because, right? Say pro bono, like share, right? I say pro bono, you get what I'm saying? Like just because, right? I'm like, well, that's always a good thing to do if you think something is totally worth your time or whatever. And there aren't a lot of people that are willing to do that kind of thing for whatever reason, dude. I don't understand. The younger me got off on the fact that cryptocurrency was essentially valueless and was mined at a loss. You know what I mean? And required all this super expensive equipment that I couldn't afford. You know, I love that idea. It's like a horse in a race at some point in time, right? It's like, and I get to sit there and tell everybody, "I told you so. I told you so." I had a lot of doubters about the shit. But when I say, I'm not just saying that. When I say, uh, I feel the same way, and I'm not trying to compare the two apples to oranges or whatever, but I feel the same way about Leah as I did Bitcoin, right? And still feel that way about Bitcoin. You know what I mean? They can have joint custody of me if they want, right? I feel that strongly about it, and I do hope that at some point in time, uh, crypto, other than layer ones and like things like it has not provided like a whole lot in the name of like technology as far as technology is concerned, which tells you that it's still early. That's the thing. It's like doesn't mean there's anything wrong with crypto. It's just we're just now getting to the first instance where we can see that crypto is going to be able to leverage um, its character traits or characteristics or whatever its features to be able to make potentially an entirely new type of technology. You know what I mean? Which is cool, or at least a new application for a relatively new technology, which gives it like a competitive edge against like companies that have warehouses and stuff full of computers, storage lockers full of computers, bro. Right. It is all kind of like plug and play though, from what I can gather so far. Of course, it would be like I've said. There's people who sit there and shit talk all they want. It's like the fact of the matter is, no kid in their garage has the money right now to facilitate the amount of compute required plus all the other shit to train a model from scratch in the name of uh, doing it all on your own. Like you fucking be 200 years old before this shit ever went anywhere, right? It's like okay then, if you're that stringent about your standards for what constitutes development, then you must sit on a goddamn pedal bike and power your computer with your own feet. You know what I mean? Before you're allowed to code, right? It's like it's retarded. You have to fucking power all your shit with an exercise bike. Then if you wanna play computer, or if you're not, you're taking credit for somebody else's work, right? Come on now. It's no different than like that being considered like a utility or an infrastructure project at some point in time, right? Like foundation level AI is no different than like public city water and electricity to me, right? It's like we granted the government's not necessarily the one dabbling in the shit, thank God, but what are we killing first? I guess that guy. Great. We're gonna get shotted. Oh no, Jerry. Why did he die, Jerry? I am now tanking the boss. Shit. Is that our tank? Warlock tank? Derp. No, do we have an actual tank? We do. Okay, that was just DPS and derp. We got this. But I've explained this to people before. Like they're not being like a sort of traditional educational course or platform for a guy like me to learn the shit. You know what I mean? I got to learn it myself. You know, and I don't necessarily learn well in those settings either. So as much as I wish everything would just go off without a hitch ever, you know, it's like it's not realistic. Um, I'd say overall though the hiccups are few and far between, and it would be suspicious if there weren't any. You know what I mean? Like it would be like more than suspicious if there were zero fucking pies in your face about shit ever, right? Beware of the people. Like I get nervous around people that don't have a tarnished record in some way, shape, or form about things. And I don't mean criminal record. I mean just like overall, right? Like, oh, you mean to tell them? Oh, you're that one guy they talked about. Oh, you're the guy whose shit doesn't stink. Oh, I'd love to shake your hand. Can I shake your hand? I just want to make sure. Remember, because your shit doesn't stink. I just want to make sure. Am I allowed to shake your hand? Right. Beware of those folks. And they exist, and more often than not, they're in abundance in crypto, right? I've been hearing so much about you. I'd love to finally. Am I allowed to shake your hand? Right. That was quick, man. That was quick and painless. We never do it this quick. Ugh. Immune. I figured they would be. You know, like, I remember these. There's just not that many of them though. Spore striders. I don't know if you can sheep fucking space squids or not. But like I'm familiar with this let's say starting point. Like you know, I'm always familiar with this feeling and this point in time whenever I pick up something new or try to do something new. Like fucking cloth armor belt, and look at that, priest, mage, warlock only. Wow, it's because those are the only guys that can wear cloth. Well, that's like I say they're the only ones that can, but you know what I mean. Class specific loot. Yeah, but I had it all working and shit, man. It was pretty cool. It took like a 2 second delay. I would sit there and talk, but then I'm like, well, I would really like to be able to have it like a ventrilo where I hold my button down and talk to it and then get a response when I let go of it. But wrong mount. Right, right. But I'm trying to think if I could get the all that running on one local device like a laptop. No wonder the thing's 1,000 degrees, dude. All this shit running. But if you were to run the Vision model too on top of it, it would be pretty cool, you know. it would be helpful for me though. Like I tell you what, man, like the future, I swear, it's not just because of that Emma Watson movie, but that movie where she puts a webcam on her head, you know what I mean? But you think about like documenting learning processes is like super helpful information. It has to be, right? Um, if I could just screen grab all of the shit that I had, like my entire life, basically, eventually each person becomes probably a really valuable the other way around, right? Like think about Bitcoin mining, right? It's like what does Bitcoin do? It generates a currency by converting electricity and computer power into a virtual currency, essentially, right? It's like, well, at some point in time, the fuel for this AI thing is information, and what does each person do? Generates a whole bunch of this shit, So at some point in time, man, I think part of the universal income part could essentially come from people willing to sign in an agreement with one of these tech companies at some point in time where your entire internet footprint is considered intellectual property. All of your you would have to sacrifice a certain amount of freedom or whatever, but privacy, or maybe not. If they come up with a way for it to be like the thing I said about the cameras in your house, right? A way of sanitizing the information so that it's not, it's not uh, like they don't actually give a camera or they don't put a camera in your house that shows you like live footage. The camera records things and then an AI interprets those things into objects, and then all the server sees is the basically text output of what it's looking at, not necessarily like the exact, you know what I mean? It doesn't actually give you a picture. But at some point in time, you'd think like that'd be all super valuable information if you find a person like, well, we really, you know, people that have done it doesn't matter what it is, but like learn something that they want to teach somebody. It's like, well, training data would consist of basically documenting the process step by step of how someone learned how to do something, right? Because following instructions is one thing, but like actually learning how to do it and retaining the information is something totally else. It's a totally other, right? So you would think at some point in time, though, as part of that, they always say like a universal basic income, right? Well, at least um, subsidize a portion of your wealth or income from selling your information, in a private as much as it can be manner with one of these people. If they say like, well, because they're going to at some point in time have more compute than they need for a lot of things, right? And then what's the thing lacking eventually is going to be actionable training data, in the long run. Although I've read about that, with the quantum tunneling that occurs when you build a chip to a certain size, like less than 2 nanometers, it's prone to what they call quantum tunneling, where like electrons can actually teleport through uh, physical surfaces and stuff, which is like a kind of a hard limit on the actual how much you can actually reduce the size of a chip. It can only get so small before uh, the quantum the quantum tunneling effect takes place, which is a limitation on how um, limitation on what size an actual computer chip can be. Right, 2 nanometers is I guess the lowest it is now, and they don't even manufacture 2 nanometer. Let's see. That is so insane to me that we don't make 2 nanometer chips in America. Like, what a travesty. But both TSMC and Samsung are building facilities in Arizona and Texas. Yeah, I know, right? What a fucking. At least those guys fucking are on the ball about the shit. What an oversight that is, right? Right. But yeah, at some point in time, though, if they come up with some new type of chip architecture, or whatever, shit always something like that always happens, doesn't it? Not frequently, but it does occur usually. Um, you think like, well, all of this information people generate, you know what I mean? A way of storing it so that it can be used later to train AI would be probably pretty helpful. But the thing is, no, that's the reason why I was saying that though, is I want to understand better um, the pace at which I'm learning relative to like if I were to go to school for this shit, basically. You know what I mean? And the only way to know that is to basically test side by side somebody teaching themselves a set of skills and then somebody who documented the process going through the traditional public education system, right? So to compare like skill acquisition, at what point in time did you fully acquire or master a skill would be like on a timeline here. You know what I mean? And to put them side by side, I would like to see, even if not just for myself, but this would be an interesting feature to have at some point in time, like the self-taught, autodidactic, and then the person going to like public education, community college, university, whatever, and see it like how they, like a race almost, like how, because I've always been the type of guy to say, I don't believe that public education is the answer for everybody. Now it works well for a lot of people, but that system totally abandoned me super early on. Right, I hit like one part of my life in like the third grade where my attendance dropped, everything went to shit, and I never once picked back up from it. You know what I mean? I was just like a shitty student ever since, right? As far as school was concerned, I had great grades up until that point, right? And I never really got back on track with like public school after that point, right? But it'd be nice to see like in comparison to somebody teaching themselves a new set of skills and someone trying to acquire those same skills through like a university setting, if you could watch a progressive timeline of like, well, these are the skills required to consider yourself proficient or a master or whatever at this, you know, and like nodes light up as they are able to prove that they have those skills and stuff. It'd be cool to see. And one of the things I tell people too is like the reason why I feel that way is like Elon Musk is a really good example of a guy that NASA would have never hired Elon Musk, right? Now he hires NASA, right? Isn't that kind of funny? Like they never would have gave the guy a time of day if he wanted to say he wanted to be a rocket engineer. He didn't go to school for the shit or anything, did he? I don't think so. Looked it all up on the computer, more than likely. Um, and that's the type of guy where like you mean to tell me the guy that like saved your astronauts from the space station because you guys apparently dropped the ball on something, right? Um, you NASA would never have hired Elon Musk in a million years, probably. I mean, like maybe, but they would have said like you needed like okay, we believe you know how to do it, but you need to go to school and get this certificate, and then we'll hire you, right? The likelihood of them hiring like a self-taught rocket engineer to build rockets or design them or anything was like probably non-existent. You know what I mean? And here he is, better at that than the people that said he wasn't good enough to do it, which is a common story. That sort of thing happens. Not to say more frequently than it doesn't, but those are always like the real success stories where you hear about the guy getting turned down by every college or getting turned down by his favorite companies and everything for one reason or another, and then does his own thing and is wildly successful at it, right? That's like the success story everybody appreciates. Amongst other things, I'm sure, right? Well, sure, he could have got a job at Ford if he wanted to, but you get what I'm saying, though. A rocket engineer is not necessarily a self-taught skill. But to be a master at it, what does it consist of? It's basically proving you know how to do various things, right? It's like there's no reason you can't learn to do those things without college. College, more or less, is like the certification process. Now, if there were a way to develop an educational platform that allowed you to self-certify and those kind of things, and it was viewed upon equally as much as a college certificate, that would be great. But the bottleneck that I'm at now currently is I started the script, it ran successfully. I tried to add a push to talk button, and I'm getting the prompt saying it understands that there's a push to talk button, and then it starts recording, stops recording, but then when it's piped to LM Studio and then back to the terminal or whatever, it encounters an error and doesn't write the audio file successfully to play the audio from it. So work on it more later. But I had it working, man. But I did. Well, I hope to find another instance. What's the temperature like outside? 61. Sucks though, it's 61 and rainy. Hey there. Wait 1 second. Oh, you have to wait. What? Int 40, and that is 30. To click off. Sure, if you want. Pay me 3 gold. Anyway. But understanding more of that though is helpful with things like Claude and all the code generation and all that. Like I've tried Claude before, but I got this text file and I go, might as well don't know what to do with the fucking thing, right? Now I actually have an idea of how to like do something with it. But so it's just difficult for me to try and find like a where do I start? You know what I mean? Now I feel like I've got at least a understanding of like a logical starting point. Because I thought it was going to be another step after this to get it to work all the way. But now I realize, okay, so I don't know what the next thing is. I really don't. Hopefully, hopefully figure it out. Hopefully, hopefully. It does make you want to get like a server. Oh, that's the thing. Probably the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do like a crash course in that goddamn lobster robot or whatever. There's got to be a service out there somewhere that remotely hosts those things, like with a basic web user interface and all that, so that I don't have to go out and buy like a $700 fucking Macintosh GameCube for the thing. You know what I mean? GameCubes for computers. And it's neat to see, man. Like you run all this stuff locally, so quite literally, what an AI company would do is they would train their own model, uh, do a benchmark tests, count up the tokens and all that stuff, name it, and then set up a server, and then sell access to the API key or give people access to the API key to use, right, and give them a certain whatever. Like that's exactly how it works. You can set all that up locally, just on a more watered down version of the thing. That's pretty cool. I kind of figured that's how it would work, but I'm trying to shine a light on those things. So now I know for sure, right? Versus like just assuming. Already done Underbog. I don't want to do Durnold. Wait, what? What? Where are we headed? It all happened so quick. Oh no, no. Reagents. Where is?
Can I help you?
Agent Fender. It's enchanting. There's a tent somewhere. Remember? I'm like, I'll remember this next time. This guy? There we are. I guess I can sell this. Yeah, I'm not really farming a whole lot lately. I've already farmed like the thing that I actually need, but I do have a spellcloth transmute, don't I? I do. Now I go buy mana. I like my spellcloth. I don't know if it was last night or tonight. It's off cooldown, and I need a primal mana. Primal fires are expensive as shit again. Anyway. Oh shit. Come on now. Yeah, but we're no DPS whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know why I pulled. I don't know why we pulled while the guy wasn't there. fuck did we skip all this shit? Okay. That thing doesn't attack. These don't attack. That doesn't. So we had to go this way. Oh fuck. I guess I do. Fuck. How did you get? How'd you get? Yeah. How'd you skip? Is there a soothe? Yeah, I was like, I thought they were close. We normally skip to the left, so why we're not paying attention. How? At the end of the instance? Good God, whatever. Where did they skip the shit? How do you get past all this? Just go to the right. Look, 1, 2, a whole other path there. To the right side of this, not the right side of the room. And look, no, I didn't pull that one. I didn't pull, rather. fuck is that? Details. That's the other some add-on I have. Yikes. Mm. guess I'm gonna try and get more of this up and running after this and see if I can't figure out why it is that it kept crashing after um, one response. Get the push to talk to work. Can I get a crit? No, come on.